here together.
We are. Okay, welcome back. My name is John.
And I'm Sierra.
And this is...
And They Were Readers. Okay.
It's kind of stormy outside right now. So if you hear thunder, that's the state we live in, honestly.
Yeah, it's like in the afternoon. This is not the right
afternoon
time.
showers for the summer in Florida. That's what you get.
Oh no, my watch didn't charge.
Today, we're going to go through the books that we read in the month of June. It's the end of another month, another wrap-up.
Wow.
Sorry. It's okay. I don't know the number of books I read, but I do know what they are. So I'll get into them.
I'm going to guess 8.
No, I think it was less. I want to say 6 or 7.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I did look at your story graph, and you're
And
probably
it's
right.
8?
It's 6 or 7 or 8. But I think hold on. You finished a new one today.
I did finish one
so
today.
It's either 7 or 8.
Okay, well we'll find out.
Because maybe it was 6.
Hey.
But now I
We don't have to do this right now. We will find out because I'll
Okay,
talk about all of them.
That's true.
Oh.
I need more water. I'm dehydrated and
Drink some
stressed
more.
and tired.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome.
Okay.
Okay, you read a lot of books. I read about 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a normal amount.
Yeah, I liked them. I'm excited to talk about them.
Okay.
No, 5-star finds for me yet. I know, I haven't had a
This
single
reading
5
month for me? Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, let's just get into it because I forgot.
Sorry. Okay, context, probably 80% of the books he's read this month were books that I have previously read. So even though I haven't read as much this month, I will be chiming in.
Yeah, I did not have a single original book thought this month, apparently. It was just, what did Sierra read? Anyway.
You read there.
That's true. Yep, it's no. Well, now you're reading
Oh,
one.
that's
Okay, let's
true.
just get into it.
Sorry, we're a little
can you
chaotic
hit it to
today.
me?
Okay, if you're going to start with the book
Then
thief,
let's preface.
I'm going to have to bring context.
Okay.
So I just came back from Portland a day and a half ago.
Yep, Oregon, not Maine.
True. And there's a bookstore there called Powell's Bookstore. Insert clip if John finds one.
Oh.
It's a really well-known bookstore in the country. You walk in, and it's cute. But it is 7 different rooms with 3 different levels.
Okay.
All around a specific genre.
Okay.
So the blue room is literary fiction.
Oh.
The rose room is young adult.
Okay.
The gold room is, I don't remember.
Sure.
The coffee room is sci-fi. The gold room is mystery.
Okay.
And so you go to these different levels and it's beautiful. And then there's used books shelved with new books.
That's cool.
So if you go to look for whichever book you're looking for, you'll
Yeah.
just go there and see if there's a used copy. And if not, there's the new copy there. Isn't that so fun?
That is very nice.
It was great. So he told me that he read The Book Thief and loved it.
I did.
He'll explain about that more in just a second. But I was like, oh my gosh, this book is one of my other best friends' favorite books of all time. And I had never read it because everybody loved it. And I was like, I get it. It's probably great. But it's young adult and it's about World War II. How much better could it get? I was wrong. Okay? I was wrong. I'm about 220 pages in because I bought it at that bookstore.
Yep. She bought it used.
3 days ago.
Yep.
And where'd it go? You have it.
I do?
Oh my gosh, it's behind us.
Oh. That was crazy.
So I want to show you the books that I bought from Powell's.
Okay.
Okay, so I bought The Book Thief. I'm about this far the way through.
Yep.
English?
That's okay. Yep.
And then I bought Claudia Pinero's book, and it's an old one. So if you were here from the very beginning, I talked about my favorite books of 2023, and don't know what year it is. And Claudia Pinero was my favorite author of last year.
That's true.
So I wanted more works by this author because a lot of her books cost a lot of money on Amazon because she's from Argentina, and so to get books in English from her for some reason are just so expensive.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to find a used copy, and I found something. I was like, if it's under $7, I'm buying it. And it was. And not a lot of these books in this bookstore were that cheap. So it's A Crack in the Wall by Claudia Pinero. I bought this one.
Nice.
And then my other 2 I bought because of the cover. Are we surprised?
Nope.
Okay. So the other one is It Would Be Night in Caracas.
Okay.
I don't know what it's about. It's a dystopia.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And someone's running away.
Oh, this is a great price.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's because this one's a used copy.
Yeah, but it looks really nice.
I know. Okay, and then this other one I got because it had a pretty cover, and then the bird reminded me of John, so I bought it because of the bird.
I probably would have bought it.
And it was this one. It's called Gingerbread, and this is by Helen Oyeyemi. And I remember it was about like, I don't know, there's this gingerbread that's passed on, the recipe's passed on.
Okay.
And it's just like a cute little thing, but also I think it gets more intense.
Yeah.
So,
there's a bird.
Long lost childhood, found family seems like what it's going to be. We'll see. I'll read it at some point.
Find out.
All right, so that's what I bought because John read the book Thief and he's going to tell you about his experience. Now.
I will. Thank you for the segue. So this is the book Thief. It takes place in World War II. In Germany, you follow this young girl named Liesel. Yep. But the whole book is told from the perspective of death.
Are we saying that?
Yeah.
Okay.
People know that.
I didn't know that.
Oh.
And that's what caught me in the first few minutes.
Yeah.
So I read the prologue.
Yeah.
And I was reading it, and I was like, this is so beautiful. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this death? And I definitely Googled it right away. I was like, is this death?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's such a good idea.
I knew that from like book media.
Yeah, I really avoided this book by accident.
Yeah. So 1939, Nazi Germany. We follow Liesel. It kind of so Liesel ends up like losing her family and she gets adopted and taken in by this other German family. Really strict German mom and like really tender foster dad. Is the idea. She's going to school. She's growing up right outside of Munich, right?
Sure. But it's a town in Germany, like, kind of where Nazism took a hold really early on.
Yes. So here's what I'll say. Death as a narrator is so... He did it well. Because that could be a concept that's taken and like, wow, that's really cool, and then you fumble the ball.
So hard,
Did not fumble the ball. The ball was very tightly held.
But so far what I read... wished I read this in 9th grade.
Yeah.
Like, it would have helped grow my empathy. I would have understood writing so much more, I think, if we had picked up this book. So from that perspective, I think it's really well suited for a 9th grade audience.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know what happened, so maybe I'll read those words.
So since I can't say too much about the book, I gave it 5 stars. There are some lines in here that are so beautiful.
I think I'm gearing up to give it 4.75 so far.
That's fair. Just keep reading.
I will keep reading. There's some things that I'm like, oh, that's like really, I don't like the way that you said this specific thing. Like it was insensitive in my brain. But I also think at the same time, this book touches on like the nuances of racism and like just all these different problems that exist in society that aren't exclusive to war. And to incorporate that in a young adult novel is daunting, but a task that this author has done really well.
Yeah.
Made me reflect a lot on war right now, and I think that's important. I think, it's just like, it kind of sucks.
It sucks.
It sucks. Sorry that I can't offer more than that.
Yeah. So, the next book I read, after the book Thief, I decided to pick up this duology that was sitting on my shelf, staring at me for a while. And it is Six of Crows.
Oh, be gentle with it. It got torn.
Oh no.
Yeah.
A lot of the books, since I knew Sierra owned them, are just behind me, luckily. So I didn't bring them. But this is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is part of her Grisha-verse. So there's Shadow and Bone, and then there's Six of Crows, and then there's another one afterwards.
I'm giggling because the last time I explained this book, you're like, all those words. I didn't understand a single one.
And it all makes sense to me?
Yeah.
So, okay. So Shadow and Bone is like the foundational trilogy of this universe. And Six of Crows is like a duology offshoot, and it is so good. I've heard multiple times that this is the best out of all of the works of literature in that universe, and I'm only going to read these 2 books, I'm being honest with you.
You almost read Shadow and Bone.
I almost read Shadow and Bone because I loved the way the magic system worked in here and the universe. And then I realized I don't care about those characters at all.
Because you watched the first episode of Shadow and Bone.
Of the show, and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't
I care about
them.
the crows.
Yeah. So anyway, Grisha are people in this universe that have basically magic abilities, and they are separated into different factions based on what ability it is. So some people have the ability to control like matter, like metals and things like that. Other people can control like the wind and water or fire, and then other people can control things like within the body. So we are placed in Ketterdam, which is so Amsterdam.
When I
like,
said that in our 2023
yeah.
wrap-up, and I was like, y'all, that's crazy.
It's Amsterdam. It's the Netherlands, but specifically it's Amsterdam.
But fun fact, I finished this duology in Amsterdam, and so that was kind of fun.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So it was cool, like, having been to Amsterdam, thinking about the canals and, like, the streets
Like,
and, like,
knew,
the way it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we follow a group of 6, and they basically pull off this big heist, and there's one, like, ringleader. His name's Kaz. And he is this picture, like, a nice crime, like, mob boss kind of vibe, and he's, like, 18.
A child.
He's a child. But the whole team is made up of, like, basically teens.
That's why it's YA.
Yeah. The reason I like this book so much is the characters are very robust and well thought out. And they all have very distinct personalities, and when you're going through the book, you're reading each chapter from a different character's perspective. So it'll be like, oh, this chapter is from Kaz, this chapter is from Nina, this chapter is from Jesper, whatever, right? And you're going through all of them, all very unique perspectives, very unique abilities and backgrounds. You get all their backgrounds. So the characters are very well fleshed out. I finished this book, and I was like, Lee Bardugo knows how to tell a story. Every single time, I was hooked. I was barreling my way through this book, and I had other things to do.
I think your exact quote was, "I don't know how I'm supposed to get work done when Lee Bardugo writes such a incredible story."
I would just start sectioning parts of my day of when I could finish a section of this book. The cliffhanger in this duology was perfect, and I was like, "What are we gonna do in the second book that is as important, if not more, than the first book?" And they did it. She did it. It executed so well. It is bigger. Okay, we're good. Be warned, it is larger, like by at least 100 pages.
But I think I read it in less amount of time, to be quite frank.
Honestly, that makes sense.
I think I barreled my way through this book.
Yeah. You learn so much more about the characters that you already know and love. Ugh, and love.
Honestly, we were starting to watch that first episode, and you can, like, see the characters, and you don't even have to know their names. Like, they were dressed perfectly.
Yeah.
And the world that she built is so clear.
Yeah.
And, like, you just love all the crows.
Yeah. So, to keep it succinct, the stakes were still high. My issue with Hellbent was it felt very much the same to me.
And it's not a duology, it's supposed to be a trilogy,
supposed to be a trilogy,
right?
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's part of
it. So
it,
this
too.
was going to be the grand finale.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the way people think in this book is very selfish, but that's, like, the name of the game. It's very, like, eat or be eaten is the way that society works. In Ketterdam. There's other countries going on. Ketterdam is an island in the middle of the sea. There's a map in here. You'll figure it out when you read it. The pacing, I thought in both the books, because of their size, I thought there were going to be times when I was bored. I don't think I was bored for a second. It's not, we read a lot of literary books. It's not writing that is, like, artful or whatever,
right.
But it tells the story in a phenomenal way. Yeah.
That's why I think The Book Thief is so good, is because I have not read a YA novel in such a long time that has beautiful language written to an audience that is young, but also expects great things from their understanding of the book. And so I think this book writes to a level that, like, it thinks it expects from someone, where I think there could be times where they, like, elevated the language a little bit, but it's a fantasy novel, so, like, that's not necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought it was really well done, too. I think I gave
good.
it 4.75 for this one.
We gave it the same.
Oh.
We did 4.5 and 4.75.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, the first book I read this month was... I talked about it, actually, in our classics video last week.
Oh no.
Virginia Woolf's Orlando. And it's not the city, it is a person. So, this book starts in Queen Elizabeth I's court. Okay, so way back when.
Yeah.
Okay, and
what was this one? The second?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And there's more queens in between.
Well, yeah,
Does it
yeah,
go first
yeah,
and second?
No, yeah, It didn't go back to back. Yeah. I watched The Crown.
You did, honestly, yeah. And so Orlando starts as a 16-year-old teen boy at the beginning, and by the end of the book, you're in, like, the early 1900s.
Okay.
And she's a 36-year-old woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it goes onto that journey to kind of describe what gender is and the constructs around gender and how we perceive gender.
And this is old.
Yeah, this is from 1920 something.
Okay.
1928.
1928.
She died. In 1941, I think. Sorry.
She died.
She died. So I thought it did a really good job surrounding like those ideas of gender. One thing that I think it did really well was talking about how Orlando was always Orlando, like within themselves. And so it was weird how they did it sometimes. Like there was this one scene where like towards the end, she's a woman and she's like being courted, or she used to back when she was a man, back in the day, because she ends up back in the same city.
Okay.
She gets courted by like this woman really likes her or whatever.
Yeah.
But she's a boy at that point, and then she comes back around and she's a woman.
Yes.
And the girl comes back and she goes, "I was actually always a man, and I'm still in love with you." And it's just like, it's honestly kind of quirky from that perspective.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's really important, like in the canon of works and talking about gender identity and gender expansion.
Yeah.
And I was sitting next to someone on the plane when I was reading this, and they like kind of looked at it and they're like, "I like that you're reading that book, and I think it's really important work." And I was like, "Oh, I appreciate that." And we talked about literature, and then I texted him to like see if he sees someone on the plane because we're on the plane at the same time.
Okay.
And I found a really good book, and he did not.
I did not.
And so we ditched that video idea.
Yeah.
But
seeing open water in the wild made me so happy. I should have gone up to that person.
And honestly, we have like another flight coming up,
This
so maybe
is
we
true.
do this on this next flight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Again, Virginia, I don't know what you're doing in the middle.
It's the middle third. You always don't like the
I
middle
don't know why
third.
you get so slow. But it was like, ooh, interesting. Oh, I'm on top of what's going on.
Yep.
Ooh, you like snuck out. Oh, this is so fun. And then we like are in a different country, and you're like just talking to these people, and you're just sitting there, and you're like, I am this person, and you're just kind of soliloquizing. What?
Sure.
You know what I mean? And then the end got really good.
Wow. So she has good, strong starts, strong finishes.
Yeah.
Just nothing in the middle.
From the 2 books that I read.
That's
I have
fair.
more
That's
to
fair.
read.
Yeah, more
So,
to read.
That's the one I read I really enjoyed. And happy Pride Month.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good segue for me.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Way to go. There it is. I didn't do this in chronological order because I finished Six of Crows so much faster than I expected to, and I was like, I need Cookie Kingdom now. Sierra was gone, and Amazon was like, we can't get it to you tomorrow, you selfish, greedy child.
That's so real.
So I ordered a used copy, and it still came fast,
Yeah.
but I decided to start in Memoriam.
But you also booked it through this book.
I read this book in maybe 2.5 days.
Doesn't it feel so nice?
It's really nice.
Yeah. I like the inside a lot.
This copy.
Thin pages.
Is real nice.
Yeah.
Okay. In Memoriam takes place at the beginning and the onset, and honestly throughout the entirety of World War I.
Nice.
So I read a book about World War II, and then I read a book about fantasy, and then I read a book about World War I.
And then finished the fantasy.
And then finished the fantasy. Anyway, so it takes place World War I. We follow these 2 guys. One, they use their last names, but I'm going to use their first names. Sydney and Henry.
But I'm going to use their first names, which I've talked about this book.
This is
so
true.
if you're like a recurring guest,
Yeah.
you might already know.
Tune me out.
Or listen to his perspective.
But Henry Gaunt, Sydney Elwood, and they refer to each other as last names, as their last names. They start off in like a men's boarding school in England, and then they are receiving the magazine, like the newspaper, and they start to notice their friends' names showing up in the in memoriam section because they're fighting in the war. For whatever reasons that I'm not going to spoil for you. Well, first of all, Henry and Sydney very close. They're roommates. They're really good friends. One of them goes off to the war. Like, he enlists and he gets sent out. And the other one is like, I can't believe he did that on such a whim. I gotta go join him.
He's like, that was so rude.
That was so rude.
You didn't prepare for me to like go with you.
And if you think you can escape me like that, think
Try
again.
again.
I'm coming to the war with you.
What a crazy thing to do.
It was wild, especially. Oh, okay. The thing that this book does so well, you learn about trench warfare in history classes.
True.
If you're from the United States, you like go through World War I, like trench warfare, trench foot. It was bad. This book made me understand that to a whole new level. Alice Wynne writes trench warfare like you are there, to the point where I was reading this book in only 3 days, so there wasn't a lot of opportunity to get me in my sleep, but it did. I had to wake up one day earlier than normal, so I was reading this book before going to sleep. I go to sleep. I am in the trenches, but not me physically in the trenches in this dream. And it is like raining. I have my helmet on. I'm looking around and like I'm seeing the soldiers with me, and we're about to like storm no man's land, as they do in the book, as they did in real life. And it was like we were all looking at each other, hyping each other up, and we're gonna go like on the steps that lead out, and like I'm watching the people in front of me go, and then as I'm like taking the steps, my alarm goes off, and I was sleeping on my stomach, which isn't great for your back. I was sleeping and I pushed my body up.
Yeah. You cobraed.
I cobraed.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, I felt like I was like shell shocked. I woke up and I was like, "What in the world is going on?" My alarm was going. I was like, "Where am I? Where's my gun? Like, where's my team?" And then it took me a good like maybe 4 minutes to fully understand that I was safe and I was home.
Like your heart rate was probably like.
It was
I'm
going.
Dying. Yeah.
Yeah. So it did that so well, and then at the same time described like a queer relationship in the early 1900s and what that could look like, especially in the context of World War One, and it did them both perfectly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, with phenomenal writing, and for that reason, Your Honor, I gave it a 5.
Okay, so then I read. Did I read that? No, I did not. Hold on. I did all my reading on the plane actually this month.
Because she was
I was
always on a
the
plane
this month. So I finished Orlando on a plane, and then I also finished Cannibal by Sophia Sinclair on a plane. Also, Happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. Sorry, come back for that.
Yeah, I'll give you my second.
So if you didn't know, we're Caribbean American.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that there was a month for it until my friend told me.
Yeah. So apparently, at least in the States, Caribbean American Heritage Month overlaps with Pride Month. I wanted to read a book for Pride, which I did, but I didn't know about Caribbean Heritage Month until it was too late. Well, I did know. She told me, and I forgot.
You definitely forgot.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It was a quick text.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mentioned this a long time ago, and I've been working through it, and then all of a sudden I got on the plane and I was like, I need poetry now. And so I just sat and read a bunch of poetry. It is so good.
Ooh.
If there's a poetry collection that you pick up within the next year, I recommend it to be this one.
Wow.
So this incorporates high-level imagery, or like, not high-level, but like high diction imagery surrounding the female experience, the woman's experience. It talks about colonialism and what that looks like within the context of the United States and Jamaica. It talks about like nature and beauty and pain in ways that I've never been able to describe myself.
Wow.
And so there's excerpts from different historical pieces of literature that sometimes inspire the different poems. So there's like Jefferson 1, Jefferson 2. Like there's just a lot of different hints to history, hints to nature and ecology, and then also like the overarching theme of systems and what that looks like when it comes to racism and colonialism. And so I think that I haven't read something in a while that is as certain of itself as this poetry collection.
Wow.
So yeah, I think
that's good.
The biggest complaint I saw for this was people like, I was confused. And I was like, honestly, fair.
Yeah.
Some of it is very like wordy and heady, but I think that this needs to be read multiple times to really understand it. I don't think it's a type of thing that you just read and move on.
Yeah.
You sit and ruminate, which is why it took me so long to get through it. And then all of a sudden I was like, I need it now, and I did. I don't know, it was weird.
It happens. That's happened to me so many times.
And then what I also like is, it also talks about how in history, scientists use like not real science to kind of say black bodies and black heads are distorted and like not human, and so kind of said that like, okay, you're not intelligent because of the way your head is shaped compared to their white counterpart, which will tie into the next book that I talk about. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So to have this piece of art discuss that, and then the nonfiction book I read to also discuss that was really cool to me. And I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But the last thing that I wanted to mention was the fact that I really appreciated that there were notes at the back.
Yeah.
So there were some pieces of poetry that she wrote specific notes on to say, this is where this came from.
Oh.
Or here's the original work that inspired this.
That's really
and
cool.
that really helped tie together.
Yeah.
So like if you didn't take 2 seconds, sorry, that was so rude.
That was a harsh start.
Sorry.
Dial back.
If you chose not to read the end of the book and like said that you were confused, I feel like a little bit of Googling might have helped too.
Fair.
Like
Yeah.
I think it wasn't too heady if you read the notes. Like the ones that I was confused on, I read the notes and fully understood.
Okay.
So I thought that was really helpful. So just a pro tip, read the notes for this book. I wish more poetry collections actually did that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really helpful. So yeah.
That's cool.
That's the poetry collection I read for Caribbean American Heritage Month.
Nice.
So the nonfiction book that I read this month, I'm 95% of the way done, so I'm going to talk about it. But I wanted to talk about it specifically in context of that book. So this is Unmasking AI by Joy Buolamwini.
Nice.
She is a researcher from MIT. She got her PhD, and I don't remember what it exactly was in, but she started her graduate research in coding algorithms for facial recognition. So she was working on that, and as she was working on this algorithm, she realized that the facial recognition software wasn't catching her face. Like, she needed her face to be able to program it the first time, right? So she was like trying to figure it out. As she was coding it, she realized, oh my gosh, it's not picking up my face because I'm black. And like, it doesn't understand that I am here and a human. So she put on a white mask you see in this cover, and it picked up her face. Isn't that insane?
That's crazy.
And that launched this movement to address algorithmic bias within our coding and in our artificial intelligence specifically. So it's called, yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
So she calls it the Algorithmic Justice League.
Okay.
She has like a shield and everything. It's really cute.
Yeah. AJL.
But honestly, she's overcome so many challenges in this space. And like, I think specifically in light of the influx of generative AI and the use of generative AI in our everyday life, I think it's important to be more apprised of the ethical considerations within the development of AI and where that comes from and why we use it and when to use it. So I'm actually working on a paper for my research, like for my degree. So that's why I started reading this, because I wanted to have more context. And she has some like literature online where, you know how like they have journals and people publish the research?
Yeah.
So typically when you have to like submit your own work, you don't use books, you use that literature that's like peer reviewed.
Oh yeah.
Because this is not technically peer reviewed.
Yes, okay.
But she hasn't written anything in a minute because she was publishing this, I think.
That's
so
fair.
the papers that she talks about in here, I've read, and that was really cool to just kind of see the progress that she's making, but also, whoa, y'all, like, uncovered gender stereotypes, uncovered obviously racial stereotypes, uncovered the inequities within corporations and capitalism. Like, this is a really good read if you want to unpack the ethics of AI, not just from right now and generative AI, but what we've been doing for the past 25 years.
Wow.
So I highly recommend this book. It's an interesting read, it's an easy read, but also deep and like reflective.
Wow. So another book that I read this month is Pure Color by Shayla Hetty. This is another one that Sierra has told me to read, which, I mean, all of these books are. This is narrative philosophy, and I love philosophical books. My brain, for some reason, just, like, eats it up. So I did read this book in a night. It was unhinged behavior. I did not plan on doing that. I just kept going, and I was like, oh, I guess I can finish it. It's possible that I might have steamrolled my way through it and therefore lost some of the moments where the author intended you to ponder and like think a little bit harder. But I still liked it. I gave it a 4.
Which I think is still good.
Still
I think
good.
I love philosophy so much, and I only read like the extremes typically, where it's like, okay, I'm reading Aristotle or modern philosophy.
Yeah.
So I think I like ate it up too, and I actually really loved this one.
Yeah, it talked about the idea of childhood and what that means in respect to your parents and what you might owe them and what they might owe you, which could be everything or nothing depending on how you think about it.
Or like, what do you really owe though?
Exactly.
Like, the way that relationships work, is it is owe the right word?
Exactly. Yeah. So, but that's just one of the things that this book covered. It covered a lot. And if you enjoy philosophy, and a book that makes you think. But it also tells a story, but it makes you think more than telling a story.
I definitely don't remember the story. He said,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, the main character's name is Mira. I said, there was a character?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember
Yeah, there were
that.
characters.
Yeah. Then I think you would like The Unbearable Lightness of Being.
Okay.
I think you would. I think you might not love it.
Okay,
Like, it's not going to be a 5-star read.
That's fine. Not every book I read has
But
to be 5-star.
I always try to recommend you 5-star reads. It's like my goal in life to give you like 4.5s or higher when I recommend, and I don't know if that
Six
would
of
be
Crows
true.
and Kicker Kingdom was solid. This is a 4. Like, this is fine.
No, I
liked it a lot.
I agree. But I think like classics and then
Yeah.
philosophy.
It's okay.
I can't speak today.
I'll do one more.
Sounds good.
I also read another book by Kazuo Shigeru, and
why?
it is Klara and The Sun.
Have I talked about that here? Or did I read that before?
I think
we made a channel?
I think
Really?
before, because I don't think I've heard you talk about it.
Huh.
Yeah. So, this is now my 3rd book by Kazuo Shigeru. So I listened to this book, and it, honestly, don't really know where it takes place. It doesn't, they talk about...
England.
Is it England? No.
You're right,
No, it's not. One of the characters is British, but it's weird that they're British. So
Yeah,
it might
you're
take
right.
place in the U.S.,
Or, yeah.
because they talk about some states at some point. So we are getting this story from the perspective of the girl named Klara. Klara is a robot. They are what are called AFs in the story. I don't know what it stands for. I just, in my head, said automatic or like automated friend.
They tell you once, I think, but when
do
you're
they?
listening, it's...
It might have just
And they
passed
say
over.
AF for the whole thing.
For the whole thing.
Yeah.
So basically, AFs are created to befriend and kind of watch over kids from like something like the age of 8 until they're in like college, or like teens to college age.
It does not go the route of Megan.
Oh, I don't even know what Megan is. Is that what Megan is about?
The movie where they
Yeah.
create a friend and it's AI that's like built to be this little girl who befriends this
I
other
thought Megan
the main
was a
girl.
horror movie.
It is,
Oh.
and so she's like her command or her objective is to not to protect the girl at all costs too.
Okay.
And so anyone who hurts her emotionally or physically is now a threat to the girl's life.
Yikes.
I have not watched Megan, but it looks actually so good.
Okay.
But it did not go that direction. It went a very different way.
Very different direction.
Philosophical.
So it is very philosophical. If you know Kazuo, if you read any of his other books, you know that it's a very slow burn a lot of times. So
oh my gosh,
at the beginning, and you're in the mind of a robot who is understanding things just a little bit different than you. It's like very human adjacent thinking. So she'll see like a smokestack and be like, oh, that building is just like putting dark clouds and it's blocking the sunlight. And you're like, yeah, I guess it is. And like it does other things too.
Yeah. But the point is the sun.
Yes. Yeah. And so the AFs are solar powered. So that's something just to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Basically, she ends up getting chosen by a family and taken into their home to care for a girl named Josie. Josie has an illness that isn't really specified ever. We just know that she has like really good days and like really bad days. Klara is there to just be Josie's friend, help her out, be around, be a companion. Without getting into more of it, because it's like a big reveal and there's a lot that goes on, it is a very nice kind of reminder about nature, one, and it is kind of paradoxical that the robot is the one that cares so much about nature. Klara has full-on conversations with the sun. And that sounds crazy, but it's honestly really tender in the book.
Yeah.
And she goes on like this mission to help Klara, but she also is like a climate activist at the same time. And you don't really notice it until the end. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're gonna have some times when you might be like, what are we doing here? Just bear with it, okay? Because now that this is my 3rd book by Kazuo, I was ready. So I wasn't upset, and I liked it. It was a very tender reminder.
I feel like he does a really good job of beautifully describing and bringing you into a world in the first like 3 chapters, then you get bored for you get bored for like the whole middle, and then the end you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you took a long time, my guy.
It was like when I hit like 65% of the way through, there was a moment where my jaw was on the floor, and I was like, oh, I literally was in the car and I was like, that's what we're doing, Kazuo? Like, I didn't know what was going on. So that was very cool.
Yeah,
and then I finished it on my way here just now, and there was a line that Klara says, like, near the end of the book, and I was like, You did it to me again. You had me in the first half where I thought I wasn't gonna like it, and here I am.
Yeah, that's fair.
So if you've read his books, let us know what you think about him.
Yeah, I also read A Pale View of Hills.
Yeah.
I didn't say that right either. A Pale View of Hills.
Which might be the one I read next.
I only read it because I liked the cover.
Yep.
And I listened to it. I didn't buy it.
But
But I was like, if I wanted to listen to them first to see if I wanted to buy the set from the UK version.
Yeah.
That's really
That's
why.
right. I was doing them one by one.
One by one. Next. Sorry, I don't know why. Okay, next I read On the Plane, almost the whole thing.
On the Plane?
Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck.
Mm-hmm.
So after he read East of Eden by Steinbeck and was like, oh my god, I loved it so much. That's exactly what you were like.
That's what you guys hear when I talk?
That's what I hear when you talk. I was like, this is ladle. I can do it.
Yeah.
So I started the first 25 pages and then I put it down and then I picked it up on a plane and finished it.
It's really small.
It's really small. It's really tiny.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so basically it's about two friends in like the 1920s, the Salinas River area in California.
Yeah, that's the same. Okay. Sorry.
Right, he writes about the area he knows.
Yeah.
And one friend is like the spokesperson for the group, and the other friend, we don't know if he has like a learning disability or like a intellectual disability, but he comes off as someone who doesn't know how to articulate for himself like super well. He can to his one friend, but it's really hard for him in like larger context to communicate, and he makes mistakes and doesn't realize like his own strength. And so he just can't he doesn't have a good handle of his own body, and like that's like he knows that he makes mistakes, and like he has an obsession with like small creatures that are furry but accidentally kills them, like things like that.
Okay.
And it's really sweet, but it's also really sad because you can see that like in this time period there was no understanding of how to like support someone who was going through that, and he like they had to run away from a city, and you find out later why.
Okay.
And they end up working at this other farm, and then the last 3 pages were actually just so good. But the whole thing was well written and really well paced.
Yeah.
I think that it is of its time a little bit.
Oh, okay.
you know how people be writing and you're like, you can't say that.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. You think about women in what way? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But also a story of friendship, but also of tragedy. Someone I really respect. She's no longer on the internet. You're doing great. I hope you're like living well. But Allison Pages, she was dealing with a lot of like medical stuff, which is why she left the internet. But she gave it 5 stars, and I respect her a whole lot. So I was like, okay, I'm not far off base if I'm giving it like 4.25.
Oh yeah.
I just was like, am I missing something? Like, is there symbolism? No, it's chock full of symbolism, but it's also like really well done. I think you would actually really like it. I think you would.
I love John Steinbeck now. Apparently.
I think East of Eden is probably better, and so it's hard
fair.
to probably go from East of Eden to this.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but I'll probably beat it anyway.
But because again, the middle I got a little bit bored, but it was fine.
Yeah,
honestly,
the middle was also like 20 pages.
Yeah, so I made it through it.
Yeah.
But like honestly, the last 3 pages.
Okay. The last 3 pages.
I literally was like, okay, I think I know what's gonna. Oh my god. So. Heard. All right, last book for you, right?
The last book that I read. This is There by Tommy Orange. Not to be confused with like There.
I was gonna do that.
It comes from a quote from Gertrude Stein talking about the city of Oakland, which is where this is based.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And she's talking about how she used to live there for a period of time, and then she left, and then when she came back, everything was like very industrialized and modern and like built over and unrecognizable. So she's saying there's no like there. It's gone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can I read the back? While you
Sure.
Thanks.
So, Tommy Orange, who, if that name sounds familiar, it's because he blurbed Night Crawling by Layla Motley.
On the orange cover. Which we were
and
so
we had a moment. Anyway, this story follows 12 different people of indigenous American background. Yeah.
No, I didn't know what this book was about.
Oh, well, here you go. So, we are in Oakland. Every single person has a connection to the city of Oakland, and a lot of them have, all of them have Native American history, ancestry. A lot of them are from the Cheyenne tribe. So there is something that's happening called, if you don't know what a powwow is, it is when like the Native American community will come together and people will sell things. There'll be shows, dances, food. It's like a just big gathering of cultural appreciation and like passing on their cultural practices and keeping them alive. So this has a powwow. It's like the culminating event where all of the characters come together. It's called the Big Oakland Powwow. It's happening in Oakland. And every single character has a different reason for being there. Some of them are more connected than others. So you're meeting them, you're understanding their background, understanding where they're coming from as the story goes on. And then when I tell you the last 45 pages of this book, I read it clutching my chest because my heart was just beating so fast. You know that everything is coming to this huge like climactic moment because the characters are all coming from their like respective locations to one place. It's one powwow. And you're like, but what's going to happen when you get there? And you have an inkling because some of the characters are a little bit more nefarious than other ones. And you're like, oh no, like what are you going to do? How is this going to affect the other people that you love? And you'll have some characters that you like more than others, some that you have more pity for than others. It was so good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I highly, highly recommend. It talks a lot about, there are times when you aren't following characters and the narrator who like, I guess it just feels like the author, Tommy Orange, is giving you some thoughts on what it means to be Native American in this day and age, and historically. Read your trigger warnings for this one because the culminating event is like, yeah, especially if you live in America is what I'll say. And that's everything I read this month.
Oh my gosh, we read another month.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah, the lowest rating I had this month was a 3.75. Sorry, Kazuo. I still love you though.
Yeah, I gave Pills I think a 3.75.
Yeah.
It's just that's what if you make me wait for a third of the book, you're not gonna get higher than a 4.
It was really good. And I need the covers.
Anything 2.5 and higher, I think is good.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I would say 4.5 to 5 is excellent.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay,
thanks for watching. We will catch you in the next one.
Bye.
See ya.